This is a good one because there are developing things going on there. 10 days ago, or before the Champions League final, I had an interview with him and he said, I will respect my contract and I expect him to stay in Dortmund. But there could be things moving on because maybe one of those clubs have serious ideas to get a new number 9.
Good morning and welcome back to the Football Terrace. Jan Uruguay Fjortov has, I think, sent Chelsea fans into sort of reams and reams of excitement this morning. Of course, we gave the update the other day and a reminder from Said Walid about the fact that Chelsea Football Club have always seen Haaland as their number one target across all spectrums this summer. Not just in terms of being their main number 9. He is the main transfer target. It was said 5 to 10 days ago, if you listen there to what Jan Fjortov said in his interview with ESPN, that the Dortmund striker was going to sort of honor his contract. But now there have been developments in the last 10 days. We're going to go into that in a little bit more detail. And it echoes massively what Christoph said on the show the other day. You never say never in the transfer market. Things change overnight. It could, almost butterfly effect like. It could be something that happens at Porto Football Club and it ends up impacting something that happens at Chelsea. That domino effect, that butterfly effect is in full action. In other news today, Chelsea reportedly opened talks with Saul Niguez. This is something that Fabrizio Romano briefly touched on last week. It does appear that Saul Niguez wants to lead Atletico Madrid this summer, and Chelsea appears to be one of the front runners in for him. And there's also been a development in the Lukaku situation as well that we will delve into. And I think it's something that boosts Chelsea some hope. We know that Lukaku is the second, maybe the third choice option for Thomas Tuchel and for Chelsea Football Club this summer. But he still may end up at Stamford Bridge. Interesting words from the Inter Milan president in relation to the financial situation at the club. And this, again, is another deal that was sort of written off last week. But most experts say never in these types of situations. We are going to take your calls. We are going to go through what you think and feel this morning as well. I'm also going to go through your comments in a few moments' time. But do me a big favor. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the Football Terrace and turn on the bell notifications. If you're watching on Twitter, give this a retweet right about now for us and leave your comment sections below the stream there via Periscope. I want to know what you're thinking and feeling in relation to these deals. Let's do some of your live calls that are coming in here. First one says, Terry, how good is Saul Niguez statistically compared to others like Declan? Very good. Very good. I don't have the numbers to hand, but he's not even looked at as a CDM, and I wouldn't call Saul Niguez a CDM or a defensive-minded midfield player. But statistically, very, very good. Over 5 interceptions per game, high defensive duel and tackle win ratio in the 60% as an example. His pass completion is also very, very good. That can't be denied. So a very talented player. Saul Niguez, for me, I actually think he could walk into pretty much every team in the Premier League. I think he's technically that good. He is versatile. He can play a number of positions. He's a sensational player. And Chelsea are linked with an 80 million euro move. But we have seen a lot of speculation in relation to the price when it comes to Saul Niguez over the course of the last week. David Kitts, one of our members here, says, I want Lukaku over Haaland. He was so good for Belgium. I mean, it's an interesting one. And let me pose that. That can be the big question today for all of our viewers tuning in. Haaland or Lukaku? If you've got the choice, David Kitts here says he would go for Lukaku. Who would be your number one choice? Leave us a comment and tell us why you think and feel that, please. Let's do some more of your Terry thoughts on the Tielemans link to United. I think Tielemans is very talented. It's not something I'm buying into just yet. I read about it this morning and I don't know. You know, sometimes you read a rumor and you just think, meh. That's my response. Meh. That's all it really feels like to me. Neil O'Callaghan here says, sorry, Terry, off topic, but any news on Rafinha to Liverpool? And do you believe the links to be credible? I do think the links are credible to him. Nothing has developed in recent times. And it may not before sort of the international tournaments take place this summer. Agents always very busy in that time as well. International tournaments, especially as the world is going back to normal. Travel restrictions are being lessened more and more around Europe and around the world. Agents are very busy. They're out there looking at endorsements. They're looking at sponsorships. They're building up relationships. There's almost sometimes an opportunity to slow down transfers as an agent at this point in the season and create a bit more of a flurry and a fury later on down the line. Liverpool, of course, also reviewing and looking at a number of options. And Rafinha is definitely a target. But as we said before, when it comes to Liverpool, they would like to make a big marquee, big money signing this summer. But it may require them to sell somebody. So from their point of view, there is an element of, do we want to rush into signing a Rafinha? As an example, they sign Rafinha now, they sign a Daka now, and then big transfer request comes in from, say, Mane because Real Madrid are legitimately interested. That could throw the spanner into the works in terms of eating into budgets, making it harder to fill those positions, as an example. So there could be an element of Liverpool just keeping their powder dry for a short period of time. But no problem answering your questions. We answer all our super chats and as many of our member chats as possible. Terry, please put up a poll for fans. Should we sign Niguez or Sabitzer? I will put some polls up later on today on the Football Terrace community page. So make sure you keep checking the channel out. And you know when they're going to be live. Keep hitting that like button for us this morning, people. We're sitting on 115 likes. We can do a lot better than 115 likes, I think, here on the Football Terrace. There's no doubt about it. And what we saying over on the Football Terrace YouTube page, Twitter page. So 16 people. What's not bad? 12 likes, 6 retweets. I think we can get that higher, though. People over on Twitter, no excuses there. Hit that retweet button, get this out there, get it shared right now. Going to be taking your calls a little bit later on in the show. But what I'm going to do first is go through each of these stories in a little bit more detail. We'll touch on Haaland a little bit later. I want to first of all start with the situation with Inter Milan. So it says here this morning that Chelsea seem to have been handed a boost in their hopes of seeing the transfer of Lukaku this summer. I'll skip through all the stuff where they talk about the player in terms of who he is, how much he's valued, how many goals he scored. I don't think that's relevant, really. He says, despite Inter's recent success, it seems the Serie A champions have to think hard about selling players this summer in order to balance the books. Club president Steven Zhang has been quoted in the press as offering Chelsea hope in the respect to his this transfer, and his quotes surely hinting that a player like Lukaku could be available at the right price. And these are his quotes. He says, last summer the pandemic had greatly affected our revenues, but we continued with him, in brackets, Conte, focusing on the season, convinced we could win. He says the decision was right for Conte to leave, but now the bill brought on by the pandemic is such that we cannot fail to review the situation by looking for savings that lead to future budget balances. We must reduce the costs and risk and control risks. This is obvious. Also influences in the transfer market strategy. Our different views on the situation led to the separation. I think what's really important to focus on here is go back to what Christophe Tarrer said the other day. We also spoke with a number of journalists over the course of the last few months where Chelsea have been one of the main centerpieces of conversations. And Lukaku is happy at Inter Milan. That is true. It's factual. There's no issues. Sasha Tavolieri also spoke about this. It isn't even that they may want to sell Lukaku directly. It's Lukaku being happy with the new management. It's Lukaku being happy with who they sell and who they replace him with. There is still a train of thought that Lukaku may sit there and say, this isn't the Milan I joined. This isn't the Milan that can compete for titles anymore because we've weakened the squad. The manager is substandard, etc., etc., etc. This gives Chelsea a great opportunity to still continue to put pressure, to court, to talk to and try and convince Lukaku that this is a better place for him. The delay, though, is perfect. The delay enables them to work on the Haaland situation that we're now going to jump into and talk about, that Jan Orge Fjortov, friend of the channel, of course, who's been on here a number of times, hopefully going to be back on again soon and spoken about. I'm going to read out his quotes in relation to what he said. But essentially, he said the situation has changed. He says the situation in relation to Haaland has changed somewhat. And I think that's quite significant, really. It says things could be moving on for Haaland and the situation. They may have changed in the last 10 days. Put it this way, I was in Porto last week, and so was Chelsea. There could be developments coming up. And do you know what sometimes happens? You said about butterfly effects. It could be that rumor gets to the Haaland camp. Maybe his number one choice isn't going to come in for him this year or next. Maybe they've got different ideals. Real Madrid was reportedly his desired destination, but it looks as though they're going to really push on with the Kylian Mbappe situation. Maybe, I'm just throwing this out there. It's an opinion here, but maybe Mbappe has said, listen, I want to be the star. I don't want Haaland to be, I want to develop into a more central playing individual over the next 3 or 4 years. That's my path. So why I don't want Haaland to be here. These things happen. Football players legit say things like this. they want certain positions to themselves, right? So maybe that's happened. And Haaland said, listen, Real Madrid are not coming this year or next year now. I need to move this summer. I know I said 10 days ago I'm going to honor my contract, but that's because I was waiting for Real Madrid. Real Madrid isn't happening. Let me reassess my career, my situation. And we all do that in our own various walks of life. We can be dedicated 1 minute, and then there's a change of circumstance for ourselves. It could be family, having children, could be a new boss comes in, could be a change in direction for a company, and our minds change. Doesn't make you a flip-flop, doesn't make you any less loyal. It just means you have to adapt to the ever-evolving nature on this planet. But Fjortov is a journalist that I trust. He's a journalist who he'll always give out information that he believes to be true, what he has been told. And this isn't so much from him something I heard through a friend of a friend. We've had a lot of that recently in the market. I spoke to another journalist who said he saw said. Becomes a little bit Chinese whispers. This is Jan Fjortov having a meeting. This is him being in Porto and talking to people at Chelsea for this development. So Chelsea fans, Haaland or Lukaku, can you see these deals happening? That's the other big question to pose to you today. Can you see these deals progressing and moving forward? Get your comments in. We've got another super chat here today from Edward, who says Haaland would demand success, and if Chelsea were to keep him happy, they would need to invest yearly. He would hold Chelsea to standards promised. And that, I'm assuming you're taking that as a good thing, because I would view that as a very good thing, having a player that would come in and hold your club to standards. But in fairness to Chelsea hold them high standards for themselves. It's one of the things as a Manchester United fan, I'm always so frustrated with when it comes to Chelsea, is that you operate so well. You really, really do. You operate so well as a football club. Nathan here says EPL winners, City with Grealish, Chelsea with Haaland. That is a very difficult question for me to answer. If Chelsea were to get Haaland, I would put them as champions. I think Haaland is a phenom. I think injury pending, he could go on to be the highest goal scoring midfielder in European football history. I know what Cristiano Ronaldo has gone and done, but Haaland has given himself the base, the speed of which he started, the level of chances that Chelsea create, his goal scoring prowess, his conversion rate, sensational. So if I'm answering that poll for Chelsea fans, I'm picking Haaland over Lukaku every single day and 5 times on a Sunday. Not twice on a Sunday, 5 times on Sunday. There's no Craig David settings. We're not resting on Sunday. You know what I mean? We are pushing on with that deal. And that's no disrespect to Lukaku. He's a very, very talented football player. Let's keep looking forward here. Let's keep looking at some of these comments that are coming through this morning. I want you to make sure you're subscribing to the Terrace, by the way. Tyrone, what is wrong, my friend? Why are you so angry in the comments? I'm literally sitting there giving you the news about it. Are you okay, mate? I'll give you a cuddle, my guy. We're going to share the link now for you to phone in and have your say this morning. We'll touch on the Saul Niguez information a little bit later on for you as well. Let me just... Where's my Discord? I've got so many tabs open here, right? Sometimes I lose where the Discord server is. I'm going to share the link on the Discord server for you to come on, for you to have your say. We're going to put it in the Chelsea chat today. We'll have to always mix it up where we're putting it. We're going to put it in the Chelsea chat. Links in there now if you want to phone up and have your say. But the big question is, it goes out to all of you. What do you make of these rumours this morning? Can you see there being these developments in the Lukaku situation? How about the words from Jan Fjortoft? Do you think there's some development in areas moving forward with Haaland? Remember, he's always been the number one choice. Roman Abramovich has been quoted as being prepared to, not quoted, has been stated that he would move heaven and earth to bring him to Chelsea Football Club. I want your views. I want your opinions in relation to this. We'll touch on the Saul Niguez story a little bit later. First on the show this morning, we're going to go to CFC Ed to come on and have his say in relation to these matters. Morning, Ed. How are you?
Morning, Terry. You all right?
Yeah, I'm very, very well, thank you. What's your take on these three fairly big Chelsea transfer stories this morning?
Yeah, do you know what? Like, towards the end of last week, the striker rumours sort of dried up, didn't they? But, you know, we're sort of like a private football club, aren't we, in the way we deal with transfers. So it wouldn't surprise me if we're sort of in like a kind of advanced release stage with Haaland, or we're planning on putting a bid within like the next couple of weeks into Haaland, if you sort of get what I mean, you know.
Yeah, of course, 100%, I do. I think you could be absolutely spot on. I would be surprised if Chelsea at some point this summer didn't make a bid. But what we know about Chelsea is I want to make sure I put this in the right way. Chelsea are late bidders. They will often, probably isn't the right word, they string players along, but they just keep a lot of plates spinning for a large part of the summer, and their bids tend to come quite late. So it wouldn't surprise me if the bids for these players, for these transfers, came in sort of late July, early August, maybe, you know?
Yeah, I think the bids probably will come in with like next sort of 3 to 4 weeks, because I think Haaland said it in like last week that he's on holiday now. He's not really going to be listening to any clubs that put a bid for him. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with it. I just really want to get a striker this summer, because, you know, it's sort of the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle, you know, with our squad. If we get that striker, we're definitely title challengers for next season. So, you know, with the amount of chances we create.
Absolutely. I think it is a player in a position that's needed, especially with the amount of money that's quoted that City are going to spend, the players they're looking at, the levels they're going to try and increase their squad by. Liverpool could be doing something similar. And even Man United, look, you know, Chelsea have got a better manager. You've got a brilliant squad, European champions. If Man United do land a Rafael Varane and a Jadon Sancho, there will be an improvement there that you have to, you know, bridge that gap against. And I think Chelsea will still need something in relation to that. But Ed, great call, mate. Thank you for coming on and giving us your views and opinions on Transfer Talk. Top man, thank you. Shane here, another one of our members with the Super Chats this morning. Terry, first time get to watch live in a week because of work after lockdown. Just a super chat in support. Thank you, Shane. I really appreciate that. And we are noticing people are going back to work and life's taking over now. The amount of people I've messaged and been like, listen, thanks for coming on the show at this point in the week. And they're like, oh, I'm out drinking. I'm out with family. I'm living my life again, which is excellent to see. And fingers crossed their life continues to turn more and more back to normal as we move forward. Thank you for that super chat. It means a great deal to us here at the Terrace. Next on the show, their username is Timo Werner, so we're going to get them on to have their say. Clearly a Chelsea fan. Welcome to the Terrace. What do you want to say?
Yeah, good morning, Terry. Big up to you guys. Yeah, I found out that this news kind of a little bit out of nowhere, really, because at the moment we're focusing on a striker, and if Tuchel want to buy him, then great, buy him ASAP. He's a great player with experience and is about to his peak, literally. But my problem for me, he is more of a CM than a DM. And we do need a DM than a CM. And I know what you guys think, but I would prefer to get someone like Tchouaméni in our team. And if you look at the stats, Tchouaméni in Ligue 1, literally arguably one of the best prospect for the Chelsea's future. And for Saul Niguez, it's just for me like I know he's in Atletico Madrid. It's not. He's already aging. I think he's about 30 plus age, but I'm not sure. But I would prefer to get someone in like Tchouaméni than Saul Niguez, if I'm my opinion.
I mean, listen, you're entitled to that opinion. I don't know as much about Tchouaméni. I haven't watched him play. I think I may have seen him play a few times, but I don't remember him as a player. So, and I say that because I know what club he's at, and I've definitely watched them play. It wasn't somebody I was looking out for. Where I've watched Saul Niguez for years. I think tremendous player, but as you say, he's at a different age and at a different stage in his career. So, you know, what does that mean? What does that say? It's an interesting one. The one thing I would say, and I know that Mason Mount has been developed in recent years.
Yeah,
Chelsea tend, in my opinion, to have a habit, and I would say 80-20 of wanting to sign players that are ready to go here, irrespective of age. Are they ready to go in the here and now versus development? And that tends to be stemmed out the fact that the pressure at Chelsea is to win.
26? Is it 26 though? I'm not sure.
He's about 26. I mean, he ain't even that old. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, so for me, I don't even look at him as being that. I understand what you mean by buying someone that you look at as very young and they could be here for 10, 12, 13 years. Saul Niguez, he would still be my preferred. Like, I'm not a Chelsea fan, so you guys are entitled to say who you want at your club. But Saul Niguez to me is an established league-winning, title-winning pro who I think when it comes to Thomas Tuchel needing to win, no matter even though he's a European champion, we all know that if he has a bad season and comes fourth and doesn't win a trophy, it's highly likely he gets moved on. So I think there's a lot more safety in him going for a Saul Niguez if he's available. But listen, bro, thank you very, very much for coming on, having your say this morning. Really appreciate it. Thank you. I understand why the caller may have thought that Saul Niguez was older, though. He's one of those players. I remember with Cesc Fabregas when I saw that he was 25. I thought, God, he was playing for like 9 to 10 years at the highest level. He was still only 25. It makes you think they're a lot older than they really are. We're going to go next to Mr. Anthony. Is going to have his say with us this morning. Another big Chelsea fan. What's your thought on this Lukaku and Haaland news this morning, sir?
Morning, Terry. Just to touch on your thing saying that if we become fourth, then just have a FA Cup. It's not that he might be moved on. He's definitely gonna be moved on. That's just how we do things. So let's just keep that on there. But to be honest, I'm actually not very upset or anything about the Chelsea transfer news, because we know as a club that we tend to do make big signings. And plus, I think there is a fact that we are gonna be letting go about 11 players this summer, as far as I understand. That would bring money for us to make some big signings as well. So I'm pretty sure that either Haaland or Lukaku or one of the big strikers, we will definitely sign. That is, I'm very, very confident in that. However, even if we don't sign, we do have options up front, even with a false number 9 or some sort of method, because Tuchel will try to figure something out. And with regards to the Saul Niguez thing, I think with that money that we would be having after selling the players, I think we would be able to go for Saul as well. So with regards to the money aspect or with regards to transfer fees, I don't think we have any problems there, because I think as a club, I think you touched on this point very well earlier. We like to buy players for the here and now, because I think we have enough players who are young and who is going to be developing for the future. But at the moment, we need to look at something where we need to win right here, right now, and we need players ready for right here and right now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you've still got a lot of players developing. You know, the likes of Kai Havertz, the Mason Mounts of this world, Reece Jameses, just to name 3, Billy Gilmore coming through. I often feel with any squad, 4, 5, at a push 6 in your squad should be of like legitimate developmental age. Where the rest, I mean, you got Hudson-Odoi as well. You add too many, I think you weaken things, because young players stereotypically are inconsistent and have great purple patches, and then they have downturns as they're developing and moving forward. So I think it's going to be key. My brother, thank you very much for coming on and having your say with us again today. Really appreciate that. Top man. Remember the link via StreamYard to call in and have your say is on the Chelsea chat room on our Discord server. You can sign up to that via the link in the description below. Melvin here says Saul Niguez at 40 million is good. There have been many reports and rumors that 40 million pound could be the amount needed. A lot of people ask me this morning, why haven't I done a video on Ben White being picked for the England squad? Because I'm raging. Because I'm raging about it. Tells me so many things. One, tells me that Harry Maguire isn't going to be fit for large parts of the tournament, maybe. So why bring him? Disgraceful. And that isn't disgraceful, but that he's there. It's disgraceful that Southgate's picked him. Ben White should have just been picked instead of him anyway. How Ward-Prowse or Lingard haven't been replaced. When you told us that one of the reasons that you were bringing Trent is because you saw him more as a midfielder, you looked at him from his creative prowess. That's been taken away from us. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, love him, loathe him, rate him or not, his creative ability is sensational. So to not replace him with the creativity, I think is negligent from Gareth Southgate. I didn't do a standalone video on it because I'm actually too annoyed to talk about it. It frustrated the living daylights out of me. It really did. We're going to get Ziad on the show next to have his say this morning. Ziad, welcome to the terrace. What do you want to say?
Hi, Terry. I was just thinking about your question about Lukaku or Haaland. And of course, just to have these two options is to choose from is amazing. But when I think about, let's say, Lukaku, 75 to 80 million maybe, and then Haaland, it's like maybe at highest 150. So let's say at lowest 120 million. I think personally that's too much for, of course, he's an amazing striker, world class, but to pay that much money for a player, I think it's way overpricing someone. And when we look at Lukaku, he's only just turned 28. He's a proven Premier League striker, and as you guys were saying about young talent, we already have that in our squad. And to have someone who's a proven goal scorer in the Premier League to be able to link with the likes of Kai Havertz and Mason Mount, which will only help them improve as well, I think overall it's a better signing for Chelsea. Not only price wise, we're obviously saving a lot of money, but for the general squad, I think to have someone with Lukaku's experience who's been there, done that, is overall going to would be a better signing for Chelsea.
I understand the money's high for Haaland, and it's a hell of a lot of money. I think it's been quoted as the overall package in the first the overall package in the first 5 years could be somewhere between 400 or 500 million pounds of income. The only thing I would say about that is that's the beginning of this. Every kind of 5 or 6 years, we seem to move into the new age of money in football. So when Chelsea first started spending big in the early to mid noughties, they were breaking those kind of barriers for that era. You then saw sort of 2012, 2013, 2014 again, the envelope being pushed and the levels of money go up. I think we're now about to move into that next. We've already touched on it a couple of times with Neymar and Mbappe in recent years, and then it kind of fell away a little bit. But I think we're now about to hit another era again where the money is about to jump up tenfold. And clubs, the only thing that slowed it down has been the global pandemic, because the global pandemic has just damaged the level of income clubs have got. But in that time, if you look at it, clubs' sponsorship deals, their digital footprints, etc., have all increased. And they're going to look to monopolize on that. A lot of the digital companies out there, the Disneys, the Amazons, etc., are going to start pumping more and more money, maybe not Disney per se, but as an example, into the industry. Money is going to go up. So Haaland is going to be one of the first players who we look at as a 5-year deal player costing, say, 400 million pounds in its entirety. But he may be one of the first, but he won't be the last. And I think it's one of those things where in another 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, you're going to look back and think, but everybody costs that. It's relative, if that makes sense, because the era will change, the volume of money in the game will change, and it will just become part of the course. So I think for me, it's just who goes first into one of these deals. Will it be a Chelsea? Will it be a City? Will it be a Real Madrid? Will it be a Manchester United? that commits. And the Haalands are special because they don't just have the prowess on the pitch where they can score you the goals, win you games, win you trophies, help win you trophies. They also have that commercial element as well, which is very, very potent. So if you think about Instagram as an example, someone like Haaland, if you were to pay him to put an Instagram post out for you, you're looking at between 300 to 700,000 pounds per post. These people charge £100,000 for them to like or comment on something. So from a marketing point of view alone, what that brings to any club that signs him, especially if he continues to play the way he has done, it's so potent because you bring in hundreds of thousands, millions of new fans that will buy merchandise that you can get click rate through to and get them onto your websites, onto your apps, etc. Because they might just, they might just want to watch and listen and see what Haaland is doing. It's all worth money at the end of the day, which recoups a lot of it. But bro, I really appreciate your call. Very, very well put. Can't wait to speak to you again soon. Top man. Thank you, Ziad. Let's go to some of your comments here. Terry, Disney are active players in the market. They own ESPN. There we go. Didn't know that. That's something I never knew. Makes sense, really. But I think the digital channels will start to push further into this. Amazon have already tried, and it'll move forward. At some point, I wouldn't be surprised. At the moment, was it £4 or £5 billion for the 3-year main sort of domestic TV rights? I wouldn't be surprised in the next 5 years if you saw an Amazon, if you saw a YouTube, if you saw a Facebook turn around and say, we want it exclusively, or we want sort of 80% of it. I don't actually think with competition laws you can buy the whole thing in one lump sum, but we want all of it. And there's 7 billion, 8 billion, because that's nothing to these companies, by the way. These companies turn over hundreds of billions of pounds a year. Like, it's a drop in the ocean to them. And when those new deals come in, the money will increase. Amazon theoretically could afford to buy it and give it to everybody in the country free. And all they would use it for is to funnel you into Amazon Prime to make you all of their products, and they would make their money back. Legitimately, right? They would make their money back. You're sitting there watching the football, and they're just, all the things you like in this world are being advertised to you, like the kind of precision advertising they could give you. They wouldn't need to have people pay for advertising space. They would just target you with their Google ads. It's like, yeah, look, I did want a new shed. And they're advertising sheds while I'm watching this game. That's how they would do it. They make their money back. And when that happens, you'll see more of these Haaland-esque deals. And the only thing we've got to hope for is that money is filtered down, of course, to the lower echelons of the game. We have put a poll out on Twitter. We put the link. The link has been pinned here. The link's also on the community page on the Football Terrace. So go and vote for who you would like to see. Be the next striker of Chelsea. We have put it out here. I'm going to actually find it. I can't find it now because I don't know where it's gone. Hang on a second. All right, there it is. I think it's this one here. Should be this one here. Yeah, there it is. There's the Twitter poll that's out right now. Haaland currently leading the way on... I just read something. It made me giggle. Haaland, who should Chelsea sign? Haaland leading the way with 50% of the vote. Lukaku sitting there on 28% of the vote. Interestingly, Aaron, the Donny fan, actor and singer. You got to come on and give us a song, bruv. You've got to come on and give us a song. Man's a singer and actor. Has he been playing us this whole time? Can you imagine if he's actually a character and he isn't really called Aaron? Can you imagine? Actor, singer, playboy. I've seen those pictures. Man's a playboy. We're going to get Winter Surfer on in a few moments. Before that, a few super chats we've got to do. Monsieur says, Terry, there are sometimes moments where you think of the product and it pops into your adverts. Freaky. I reckon Lukaku coming back to Chelsea. I mean, it's not freaky. They do it via your searches. What you search, what you look at, things you watch. It all gets recommended to you, if that makes sense. It's as simple as that. Nick says, will Dortmund sell Sancho and Haaland this summer? This is the problem I have. United, we can't compete with this spending and will be left behind, is what Nick Thomas believes. Yeah, I mean, the worst bit is we should be able to compete. But because of our owners, we can't. Man like Andrew, the Winter Surfer's on now. Big Chelsea fans with us. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good, Terry. Speaking of Aaron, I think he's that secret millionaire, you know, the program, you know, when he's like, you just go around YouTube And then he's going to like invite everyone around, and he's going to see who's going to invest in. But just be kind to Aaron from, any YouTubers. Just be kind to him. He might be a secret millionaire. We never know.
Can you imagine if people are darkening him off, and then it turns out, I've been looking to pump £1 million into advertising into one YouTube channel. It's been him all along. That'd be hilarious to be like, I'm glad I was my normal nice self.
Yeah.
He got it. He didn't pick this, he picked some other random channel that's never let him on. I'd cry then, but I gave you something that time. The man messing. What's your take on these big stories this morning? Lukaku developments is in. There still could be a chance. I think the Haaland news is the biggest from Jan Fjortov. What's your take on it, mate?
Yeah, I mean obviously Jan's very close to him. He's interviewed him a lot of time, so it's interesting. I mean, if Chelsea get even a sniff that he's interested, they're going to be all over it. If they might be all over it right now. My view is that people go, 170 million is too much. I don't care. I really don't care. If Haaland gives us a sniff that he wants to come and buy him, Chelsea fans shouldn't worry because it's not their money. Roman Abramovich bought a painting for £95 million once. Do you know what I mean? He's like, he builds $400 million super yachts. Do you know what I mean? £170 million for him is probably what he just earned in interest on one of his companies this week. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but if Haaland gets him, you go for Haaland. I'm sorry. As much as I listen, I thought Haaland was off the table, so Lukaku, I'm all in on Lukaku. But if Haaland gives a sniff, I hate using this term, Terry, but he is a generational talent. There is, if you get Haaland and he fires with our team, we are winning. We are battering teams next year. We're smoking teams next year. It's us and City for the title. And you know what? If we get him, Terry, I'm not saying we would, but there's a big chance we retain the European Cup as well. I think if we get him and he stays injury free, I just think you don't pass on pass on Haaland at all. You just don't do it. It'd be the same if Mbappe gave us a signal as well. You just don't pass on Mbappe. You just put all your transfer funds or your transfer budget into him. You just don't pass on him. You just don't do it.
And the thing is, what fans have got to understand is, one, Roman will pump more money in if he needs to.
Yeah.
Secondly, when you sign Haaland-esque players, the marketability from them will generate new incomes that are not available now, or it increases what is available to next levels. So I don't believe in this. He won't pay for himself.
Yeah.
As in, the shirt sales won't cover things. It will never stretch to that point. You don't have a deal like Liverpool have got, but a fair chunk can be recouped. Equally, Chelsea isn't run as a business to make profit for shareholders and dividends. It's run to make money. Financially, they run it to make money so they can keep pumping it back in the squad. And when you think about Haaland this way, there's two train of thoughts with it. If he kills it and wants to leave, you'll make a profit on him because you're selling for less than you bought him for. So you'll make a profit if he leaves. But if he doesn't and he's killing it, the only time it becomes a bad signing is if he's awful for you. And most people think that will happen. But if he comes in and gives you 10 years, then you sort of spread. Say he does 10 years at Chelsea, and then you spread the cost at £70 million a year. Would you think about it that way? Say it costs 170 mil flat outright, how much it cost, and he gives you 10 years, and he scores 25 to 30 goals minimum every single season. You would pay £70 million every summer to have a striker like that. So when you start breaking it down into what it costs per year, would you spend that each year to have a player of Haaland's level? Of course you would. You would.
Even if it's 5 years, Terry, it's £34 million a year, and that's cheap for a striker. That's cheap for a striker. I mean, it is in this era. It is in this era when Tyrone Mings cost 25 million. When it's touted that Jesse Lingard and Joe Willock could go for £30 million this year, paying that each year for a Haaland is. I mean, if he's banging 40, 50 goals, that's even cheaper, then, isn't it? It's just,
of course,
it just makes sense. I'm sorry, and. Like I said before, Chelsea fans, you got to get out of this. It's not when you say it might be too much. That's fine, but remember, it's not our money. It's Roman's money. If he wants to spend 170 million pounds on one player, just do it. Doesn't mean that we're not going to buy anyone else. It just means that Roman's gone. This is Roman's going. I'm buying this for me and my club. That's a separate budget from the other budget. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things.
If Roman watches one of my videos and goes, I really like this Terry guy, and I wake up tomorrow morning and there's a brand new Range Rover, a Ferrari or a Lambo or McLaren, I'm going up in levels here, right? On my driveway, I'm not going to think, will his children eat? Why I would be very, very humbled. This isn't happening, by the way. I'd be humbled. I'd be like flattered. But I wouldn't be thinking, oh my God, I can't believe that. It'd be like, yeah, this guy's worth like 9-10 billion quid.
He's not taking out a loan. He's not taking
Yeah,
out a loan.
exactly. He's not in any financial trouble. It's okay. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't think people realize how much money billionaires earn.
That's what I mean. You got interest on their companies or whatever. You don't know how many companies they're invested in, like they're like silent partners or anything like that. Or we have no idea. I like when they go on the list. They go, oh yeah, he's worth this. You have no idea how much this person's worth. You're just guessing yourselves off of what they've reported, or what you're guessing. So we have no idea what they're worth.
Because a lot of these people, their money. I worked in private banking, right? The level of people I looked after were super rich. These people like Roman are a level above that. Their money is invested in organizations where no one knows what they've got. Like Forbes don't have access to the kind of level of private banking and personalized banking that these people put their money into. Man's probably got safety deposit boxes with jewels and diamonds in worth more than some countries, bruv. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, this guy has got so much cash, it's unbelievable. So I wouldn't.
He builds super yachts every 2 years for $400 million.
Right.
He builds with submarines on them.
Hang on, let's get a GoFundMe going to make sure Roman he signs Haaland. You know what I mean?
Red Nose Day for Roman. Red Nose Day.
Yeah,
for Roman.
right. Spent all his money on Haaland, and now he has to shop at Asda. He's in trouble. Do you know what I mean? He's struggling. Listen, Andrew, thanks for coming on, mate, and having your say. Really appreciate it, buddy. Top man. Thank you. We have a question here from Mr. Anthony, who says, question, AFC fans were laughing at Tottenham about Conte last week. What guarantee does Arsenal have that they can get Conte or someone like him? 2 multiplied by 10 plus 1. Romeo's got none. That's all I'm going to say, bruv. I used to love So Solid Crew. Absolutely love them. You kids don't even know what you've been missing with So Solid Crew, bruv. John Green here says, if CFC get Haaland, City will get Kane and Mbappe. Well, that's, again, something. Thank you very, very much for that, John. And thank you. I can't pronounce that name, bruv. That's actually hurting my brain. Jerry, I'm going to call you. Thank you, Jerry, for becoming an Academy member. It's one of the things that Christoph pulled on last week. If Chelsea would have signed Haaland, I would then expect Kane to leave and go somewhere. It's, every action sort of invokes a reaction, and that's what you may see. Man like David, I haven't seen David in a while on the terrace. He's coming on very soon. Before him, Louis is here. Welcome back to the show, Louis. What do you want to say, bro?
What's up, man? Of course, Haaland. Of course. I mean, that's the big thing, Dude, if we get Haaland and you got Timo, Kai, and Mount playing behind them, the biggest issue is going to be what formation do you pick to utilize those 4 big talents, You would have to have all 4 of them on the pitch at once. That would be my guess. What do you think about that?
I think it's horses for courses. It depends who you're playing. There are times where you could certainly have all of them on the field of play. It gives you great options, great rotation.
Yes.
And I think the signing of Haaland, more so than Lukaku would do this, but Haaland would be next level. I think it boosts everybody. I think he improves everybody almost instantly because he's got drive, he's got determination, he wants to win. There's almost just the enthusiasm for the creators to get the ball into the box because their hard work can pay off. I just think it would improve Chelsea by 15-20%.
Exactly.
Instant.
I wrote this down. I said Haaland's build just fits into the way Chelsea plays and the way they want to play. And he brings a little something extra. We've all seen the ESPN clips of Haaland doing crazy scorpion kicks and bicycle kicks. He brings that little extra something that a championship winning team, needs to have to build something, build I don't want to say dynasty, but, to build a winning culture year after year like City has. They just need that little extra something. Another reason Haaland over Lukaku. Haaland's 20. He's still young. He couldn't even drink alcohol here in the United States. Lukaku's 28. Lukaku might have 4 good years. If we sign Haaland, we possibly could have him for, say, 5 years. And if he just continues on this trajectory, how much would he be worth in 5 years? And we could sell him off like we did Hazard to whoever. This is really good for Chelsea's future financially. Oh, not even talking about the marketing. How many extra fans this would bring to Chelsea's, games and whatever. But Yeah, I mean that's all I gotta say. I can't stay long. I got some extra stuff to do, but yeah,
No
I'm just excited, dude. It's some good stuff. I'm excited.
No problem at all. You're being referred to as Ozzy Osbourne today. The crowd say you look a bit like Ozzy Osbourne, so you're getting a lot of that. It's the rock look, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's the. I assume you play when you said you play bass. You play like rock music. I can't imagine you do jazz and standards and the great American.
No, I'm a bassist. I play slap bass. My drummer's got a double bass drum behind me. Yep, we're getting ready to play a show in 2 weeks. First concert we've done in a year and a half since COVID. So I'm excited.
Nice. Well, good luck with that, my brother. You look after yourself, Louis. Take care. Thank you. So that's one thing I love about the Terrace, talking to so many different people from different countries, walks of life, things they do. Do you know what I mean? We've had all sorts. We get all sorts on the Terrace basis. We have doctors, we have lawyers. We have a student on next, a student who is definitely, I wonder what he's doing, you know, HR, personal studies. Everyone does philosophy. Do you know the amount of people I've seen study philosophy? Can I ask a question? It's an ignorant question. What does studying philosophy do for you in terms of career? Like, what would it open up? Like, where would that skill set of being an expert in philosophy help? Legit, I don't know. It's one of those things I see people study. I'm like, but where does that fit in terms of? Because I would look at university as go there to learn something that you want to do as a career, so you can earn a very good living and have a good life. I don't know when it comes to philosophy. The amount of people are, oh, what are you studying? Oh, this, and philosophy. I'm like, oh, but why philosophy? And they never answer. They go, I don't know. I don't get it. So I wanted to answer that. I would like to know. Kiki says McDonald's. Don't be rude. I take philosophy. Great. But why then do you take philosophy? What is your rationale? I'm not discrediting it. I want to understand it. I had a friend who worked me in the bank. And he used to tell everyone about how he got a degree. He got a first. He was so proud of it. He had a good job in the bank. But his degree was in film studies. And he only got the job he got in the bank because after 6 years of studying to get all these banking licenses. It's like, why didn't you just get your banking licenses in the first place? I don't get it. David's here with us. So I know what David's studying. I'm not going to say it out loud, really. Welcome back to the show, mate. How are you?
I'm fine. The way you're like, what do you do with a philosophy degree?
No, I'm being serious. Like, you must have friends at uni that are studying it.
Yeah. I've got friends who study like philosophy and like political science and so on and stuff like that.
So political science, I can kind of get if you want to go into that field. But philosophy, what is it other than education? Now, education is important in general, just to know things. But where is it important in life? Do you think? What do they say?
You become a philosophy teacher, innit?
I learned philosophy to teach philosophy. It's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We need philosophy students to teach it.
Or you become like a therapist because you don't actually need any qualifications for that. So you could be like, I've got a philosophy degree, hang it up on the wall so it looks nice. So you sort of look like you know what you're doing. But, you know.
There we go. Fair enough, bro. What do you make? You're obviously studying something proper, mate. Like, is in like tangible, brilliant money. David, baller David. We're going to call you in a couple of years, 100%. When you're building bridges. What's your take on the big Haaland and Lukaku news this morning, bro?
I really want Haaland. Like, everyone knows this. Like, Haaland, I've watched him all season. I've watched him since he ever came in, and he's a different breed. He's just something. It's hard to put into words. He's just not from this planet. He has that like Ronaldo thing, Messi thing, where it's like if things go well for him, he will be on that level of you are not from this planet, because no one his age has his number of goals like in the history of football. So when you're on that level, there's potential for you to be out of this world, like you and Mbappe fighting for Ballon d'Ors. So if he could come to Chelsea, that would be great. I'd really like that, because we really do need a striker. Again, Haaland, the best thing about him is not only his goals, but the fact everyone knows it's Haaland means that defense then focuses on him. That gives players like Mason, players like Timo, players like Kai more time on the ball. So their quality will also increase as well. That's a massive like boost for us. And I just want him. Like, Lukaku's cool, But I said it on Chelsea show. You go watch the Chelsea show. It was really fun. I've said it like I'd rather sign like a striker for just this year, like maybe an older one or a younger one. So next year, when the release clause is there, we can go all out and just give him the best package possible. I'd rather take that risk and lose out because ultimately Lukaku can still be there and Kane can also still be there. Oh, sorry, my Discord's going on in the background. Yeah, Lukaku can be there. Kane will still be there, most likely. So I don't see there to be a massive rush for it. So I'd rather try and fill in that gap and then go for him rather than just eliminate him entirely. Because if you get Lukaku, you'll never get Haaland next year. It won't happen. So I'd rather wait.
And I hear you on that, and that's the one thing I'd say to a lot of people. It's sometimes you have to. It's the word the way I would describe it. Sometimes you've got to be patient to get what you really want, but then there's a risk with that then next summer when he's cheaper, you don't get him, and then you end up with neither, and then you end up in a situation where you think, should have gone for that. But Chelsea have got to back themselves in this situation, and I think it can be done this summer. I think if it was my club, I would want us to spend over double what is going to be available for next year, just to get him. It almost becomes, like when you're bidding for something, it could be buying, if you talk about Roman buying these expensive paintings, you might have a painting that's valued at £20 million. That's its valuation. But if 4 people really want it, it could sell for 80 million, 90 million, 100 million. And it's about what you're prepared to pay for it. And there's almost this element where Roman needs to, for a moment, just needs to go and behave like a pure out and out billionaire and just say, what's he worth? 120? Look, there's 150, 160. What you're saying, cash, Dortmund, what you're saying. Because I honestly think if you wrote a check, not that a check could be written, but if you wrote a check right now at 150 mil in a suitcase and you plonked it on a desk of somebody in Dortmund, they are selling. People say, would they? Yes, they're selling him. They're not turning it. I don't think they're turning it down when the cash is in front of them. People always say, I wouldn't do that for money. Wait till the money's put in front of you and see what you say, bruv. Like, do you know what I mean? It's tempting.
But the thing is, especially when you look at Chelsea's squad, there is so much dead wood that needs to get got rid of that suddenly 150 mil doesn't look as bad. Because you get rid of, players like Tammy. Apparently, Giroud still wants to go even though he signed a new contract. So you can get like 5 mil for a Giroud. You add in Zappa Costa, Batshuayi, Bakayoko, Baba Rahman, all these players who are literally doing absolutely nothing. They're never going to make the squad. And you sell them off. Loftus-Cheek, another one. Suddenly, you've raised about 80, 90 mil in like funds from their transfers. And obviously, it's not, it's not exactly net spend because we both know that's not how it works. But when you're recouping money on top of what you're buying Haaland for, the price will obviously come down and it doesn't look as bad. So I really want it to happen. I'll look for any excuse to get Haaland because he's just, he's one of those players I have genuinely I am not worried about him flopping. Not worried at all. Because he has like a mentality where it's like, even if his first 5 games are bad, his mentality will be like, I want to be better. Like with the way like Rio talks about Ronaldo when he was like, one time I beat him at table tennis. He went away for 3 weeks, got a professional table tennis like trainer to train him up to be amazing, and then come back and thrash everyone. That's what I think Haaland is like. So that's why I want to.
No, of course. And I'm reading a lot of things on socials, and I read this tweet that said that I very much doubt that Borussia Dortmund would allow the sale of Sancho and Haaland in the same in one transfer window. It's illogical for them as a club selling your best assets, and the main reason that you got into the Champions League would be wrong. I know Dortmund fans wouldn't thank me for saying this because, again, PR is important. But they are a selling club. They are, and you're a Dortmund fan. You, in your heart, every time you sign or develop or bring through a young player, they're not staying there.
I expect them to go Bayern Munich. That's genuinely, I expect them to go Bayern Munich.
Marco Reus has kind of bucked that trend.
Yeah.
In my opinion, injuries is what did that. Like in my view, where he was in sort of 2012, 2013, 2014 as a player, even though I still think he's very good, injuries for me curtailed his career slightly. He's the kind of people always use him as the example, but it's like, yeah, he's the exception to the rule. You know, every top player that I've seen at Dortmund in the last 10 years has left and leave at some point. So as crazy as some people may see it, that why would they sell both in one summer? Well, it depends how much money they think they can generate. If, for instance, they get an extra 50, 60, 70 million for Haaland, that's a whole Champions League campaign of income they've generated. How they make money to stay afloat as a club is buying players cheap, developing them, and selling them on. It's their actual business. It's their business model and the sustainability of their club versus qualification for that Champions League. And not being funny, with the money they would generate through the sale of Haaland and Sancho, they could, in my opinion, they could buy adequate replacements to still land themselves Champions League football, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not. It's like it's not hard. It's not easy, but it's not the most competitive league in the world. Once you get past like the top 6 or 7, the standard really does drop off. But when you sign Sancho for like compensation fees and you've bought Haaland for 25 mil, like, and you're going to be selling them for 90 and 150 odd mil, you definitely take it. 240 mil is more than enough to rebuild that whole squad. Like, it's more than enough to rebuild the whole squad if you really wanted to. And they're not even that kind of club anyway. They've got Knauf coming through. He's really young. He's started in the Champions League against Man City. He's a decent player, but he has that potential to grow. They've got I think his name is Tig as well. I can't remember his first name, but there's a player called Tig who's a striker who has been getting minutes towards the end of the season. So they have once again, they have the young players from the U team. Also Yusuf Makoko, who everyone's raving about. If you don't know about Yusuf Makoko, go look him up. He was like 14, playing under 18 football, scoring like hat tricks every game. He's ridiculous. They've got players already there to be that adequate replacement for when those big players leave already. Add on the 240 mil, they could go and sign whoever.
Well, absolutely. And if you look at Dortmund's income, so I've got it here in front to put up on the screen, right? So if you look at their income as a business, you see it's grown in the last 3 years. But when you look at it, 222 million euros of transfers, 120 million of transfers, 123 million in transfers. When you start going back through it, the marketing and TV rights always continue to increase. A lot of that is Champions League qualification as well, right? Advertising stays pretty, it just every single year just slowly grows. But it's the sale of players. Like, the sale of players is their biggest form of income as a football club, and it has been in the last 3 years. And if you actually look at it, most years, it's been trajecting into that level in recent years. It's what they've become. Look at it. So you think about the sale of those 2 players for Dortmund. That generates, as we just said, about 240 to 250 million euros of income. It's more than everything else almost added up together. Does that make sense? It's a business. And as a business, that's how they're sustainable. So I don't look at it as illogical, because everything Dortmund does is to earn money so they can continue to grow as a football club. This would earn them that money that they need to continue to grow as a football club. Dortmund's model, in my opinion, is not set up with the end goal being to dominate German football, to dominate European football. Yes, they want to win leagues and they want to win the Champions League. But I think what's more important to them is the sustainability model to ensure that they can keep themselves afloat and competing within Europe, as an example. If they said, right, we're going to keep all our stars to win the Champions League and win the Premier League, I think you could see it happen, right? Because they develop them young. They kept Sancho for the next 5 years, Haaland, and they kept on buying like that, young and developing. They could develop a team that did that. But then at some point, what they're going to do, they've still got to sell. Otherwise, there isn't going to be the income to replenish from the back end. They need to do it this way. So I don't think it's illogical at all. I think it's a little disrespectful to say they are a selling club. And I know I throw that term out there a little bit, and I'm often just bantering them. But I think it's this element of like, we know they're going to sell at some point. And the fact that next year, you're only going to get about 78 million pound for him. I think they could be convinced to cash in now. I really, really do. So I don't think it's illogical.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing that happened with Upamecano when, United were touted for him and people were like, oh, just throw an extra 5 mil. And I was like, no, what you have to offer them is more than what the potential there is for them to lose. So if Dortmund lose Haaland, they lose 40 goals basically a season. Is the money you're putting on top of that worth them losing those 40 goals? and try to make it up somewhere else. That's why it's such a massive overpayment on top of what you have to pay.
I'll give you an example where it could work for them because of their relationships. So I wouldn't be surprised if they sold again. Will it happen versus me being surprised are two different things. They sell Haaland for 150 bars this summer, and then they go and sign Daka for 25 million.
Yeah.
But with the agreement in principle with him that we want at least 2 years out of you, unless we get a ridiculous offer. If Daka goes in, a lot of people think he could, he might be able to convert his goals from Austria to Germany. And if he does that, I mean, this is the way I would look at it. Dortmund might be able to find another young up-and-coming striker that comes in and scores almost as many goals. And then avail of that profit. It's almost like people think Dortmund are going to sell Haaland and Dortmund finishes the club. It's a weird notion. They will find another scores.
Teams, even still, they may not find a one player who scores 40 goals. They can find 3 players though who could each score 13 goals and make that up somewhere else. That's how these teams operate. They try and find how can we end up with the net same result from what we have been given, in terms of money wise. So them finding an extra 3 or 4 players that can make up the aggregate, they can do that very easily. So,
yeah, I mean, it could be, they could go back and re-sign Isak. They might do, but yeah, I just don't think I think people, do you know what? Sometimes I think people do. I think they view the way other clubs operate through the lens of how they look at their own club. And they're like, my club would never sell our 2 best players in one summer. So why would Dortmund? And I get Dortmund don't want to. And Dortmund, Dortmund like to sell when a player for me is at the peak of their powers. I don't think Dortmund would want to keep a player. Like Harry Kane. If Harry Kane was at Dortmund, they would have sold him 2 or 3 years ago when he was 25, 20, his peak. They would have done that. Where they wouldn't have, I don't think Dortmund would ever let a player really, barring Marco Reus, who's the exception, get to their late 20s where the valuation is starting to drop because they want to capitalize on it. That's the way they operate. Because Dortmund know domestically, they're never going to compete pound for pound, year in, year out with Bayern Munich. Every sort of 5-10 years, they might have a team that can really push them for the title, but no one has. When was the last time Dortmund even won a title? Was it 10 years ago?
2012, I think it was.
2012.
With Jurgen Klopp. So
it's a decade. I don't think it's them. I don't think their model is built to make them champions of Germany. I think that's a secondary factor.
You can't do it over there because Bayern Munich have such a. Bayern Munich will call your player and say, "Wait an extra 5 months. We'll bid for you." They can just take all your best players. You can't. There's no way of competing with them because they have such a massive brand over there. It's why I hate when people are like, "Oh, why can't we do what Bayern Munich do?" It's like because Manchester United can't operate like that because you can't go to Leicester and be like, "Oh, we'll take Jamie Vardy and James Maddison for 40 mil." You can't do that because Leicester have their own money. However, Stuttgart, on the other hand, they need money to operate. Most of those clubs do. So when they have one player who has a standout season, they'll just be like, "Oh, we'll take him." That's literally what they do all the time.
Do you know what? As you said, Munich will get the players cheaper. So there's this element of, listen, some of the foreign clubs are offering, and the foreign clubs offering money is better for German football because you're getting external money being pumped into a game. If Bayern Munich are giving you 40 mil, German football isn't increasing its valuation. If suddenly this summer, £240 million from the Premier League is pumped into Dortmund and German football, happy days. Do you get what I mean? It's all these things need to be taken into consideration. I don't look at it as a stretch. They could sell both, but what they need, Dortmund for me, what they want, again, from a financial point of view and almost from a PR perspective is let's make these transfer deals gargantuan, spectacular. So one, we've got all this money in our back pocket. Secondly, we can pull the view of, listen, we just could not. The money they offered was ridiculous. We just couldn't afford to turn it down because it was astronomical. They just play it in that way.
Again, they'll be there like, "Oh, you have to do it by this date so that we have enough time to find an adequate replacement." Fully well knowing they've already got that adequate replacement. They already have it. But for them, they need to be seen as, we're only doing this because it is so much money. If you do it on the last day, then it looks like a panic sell. And then you can't really spin it that well. However, you do it with 4 weeks remaining of the window, you can be like, well, they gave us all this money. Don't worry. We trust in us. We'll find a replacement and it's fine. So, yeah.
DT is a crybaby. We live rent free. Job done. What's that all about? What's that all about?
Oh my God.
I'm so confused by that just random DT comment there from Jem. Oh, he's saying that DT. Oh, okay, sorry. DT was on AFTV saying that you went to the Emirates. You know what it is? It just is what it is. Just is what it is. Like, do you know what I really get confused about with football fans is why we get so triggered by people being rivals. Do you know what I mean? Like I saw a lot of Arsenal fans over the weekend go, "No, Buendia definitely didn't reject us." I'm like, bro, Man United didn't even bid for Gabriel last summer,
and you all guessed it.
And you said that he rejected us for you. Right, it's part and parcel of rival football. Relax, but that's what I don't like about football fans. Well, my one genuine bugbear is they're givers and not takers. They give out all the banter and abuse. When it's on them, when it's about their club, they want sound facts, information. It's like, why, when it comes to your club, do I need to be a lawyer? But when it comes to anything else, we can have a laugh, we can have a joke, we can just be fans. It's like, slow your rolls down, people. Slow.
However, Emi Mendia fully did actually reject them, and I find that so funny. How two summers in a row, players have gone, Aston Villa, it's an upgrade. That's
you know what's interesting about it? Listen, the big credible Arsenal journalists have said that Arsenal pulled away, and I'm not surprised that's a story. The same as the big Tottenham journalists have said Spurs pulled away from Conte. I'm not surprised. If Man United lose Jadon Sancho, we will spin it as we walked away. Every now and then, these things make sense. So, Haaland, the reason why a lot of teams, including Man United, didn't want to sign him when Dortmund did is because of the buyout clause. Now, a buyout clause I get. The sell-on clause is a weird one for me because if he's a success and kills it and then wants to go to a gargantuan club, you bought him for 40 and if he does really, really well, you're selling him for 80, 90, right? Like if a big club wants him. So, yeah, you're going to lose 8 million of that, but you're still making a massive profit. Equally, if he does really well and stays, the sell-on clause isn't even a problem. And a sell-on clause only lasts for as long as the initial contract. So say you do a 4-year deal. At the end of that 4-year deal, if he renews, that sell-on clause becomes null and void.
Yeah.
Because it's within that time period of the deal, generally speaking. So it's sort of like it doesn't make sense. Also, it's the pattern of the news. So the news was been our number one target. We only got Odegaard in January because we couldn't get Buendia. He was the first guy we inquired about. Odegaard's not coming back. Buendia's the deal. Buendia wants to join. We've bid. Oh, your bid got rejected. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're going to go back in and we're going to renegotiate. Confirm they're going to renegotiate. And then, boom, he's going Villa. So I'm like, that jump is the confusing bit for me. Legitimately the confusing bit. If the news was Arsenal are not sure, Arsenal don't want to pay above a certain amount, then or they've said we've pulled out, then he goes to Villa, I could believe it more. It was just the way it went from the tier ones were saying we're going to go back in and renegotiate and work on a new offer. Just straight away, Buendia's going Villa. And my view is, why did Buendia change his mind so quickly? Like 2 days ago, the same Arsenal journalists were telling us that Buendia wanted us, like wants you, he wants to be here. Why did he change his mind so quickly on the 5th of June? It's not 2 days before the season. It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not having a pop at Arsenal. I'm saying in general, what I've learned through the amount of conversations I've had with journalists in the last couple of years and people around it is we all get spun this PR nonsense. Listen to Joel Glazer the other day, bullshitting and lying to us about all the things we're going to do. It's like, I'm not listening. Seeing is believing. I want actions on this. Like legitimately, I want actions on this. Like when Liverpool said they pulled out of Timo Werner because they couldn't warrant spending that much money in a pandemic, only to spend that exact same amount of money, borrowing a few £1 million on Jota a month or so later. It's no, Werner said he weren't willing to wait anymore and he decided to go to Chelsea. It happens. You get where I'm coming from, brother? It just happens all the time. And Marble Hall says Villa offered more and we didn't want to match it. I understand that. But you're missing the key fundamental point. If Buendia says, I want to go to Arsenal, Villa's offer becomes irrelevant and it forces Norwich to reduce what they want. Why do you think transfer requests lower valuations of players? Because it gives the vendor less power in the situation. If Buendia was desperate to join you, like, I'm not talking about my opinion. Go back and read the stories from 10 days ago. He's waiting for the offer. He wants Arsenal. We're his number one choice. He's desperate to join us. How does it go from that to going to Villa within the space of a few days? I don't get it. Maybe Arsenal phoned him up and said, yeah, look, we're just not prepared to pay that much money and we're not going to come back in for you. Fair enough. But no one has said that there's been that communication. And the reason I say that it's not an attack at Arsenal. It's it's almost this sort of this thing now in football where it's become so political. Like every club, it's like damage control when they you didn't land a player. It's fine. Do you get where I'm coming from? I don't know. It just something about it don't seem right to me. And this isn't just me. Someone says whatever suits your agenda. This isn't an Arsenal agenda. You're hearing me because I'm talking about Arsenal, the subject matter. You think I've mentioned Liverpool doing this. Man United have done this. We all continue to do it and we all fall for it every single time because we want to hear what we want to hear. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it just doesn't, something about it don't feel right to me. I don't get if Buendia was the same journalist saying that Arsenal walks away and the same journalist that said that Buendia really wants to join us. Why has he changed his mind so quickly? There's no way he sees Villa, in my opinion, as a bigger club than Arsenal. All banter aside, Arsenal are a bigger club and they're in a better position to push on, in my opinion. They still are, even with everything going on. So why? And if he was your mate, and the reason why that makes sense is the next bit of the story. Odegaard's actually the number one target. Then why do you bid for your second target before bidding for your first target? That's what. As soon as you start going down the layers, it don't make sense. And that isn't Arsenal. It's what all football clubs do. Their stories never add up when you start to break it down. We're not going to spend £40 million on a player in the pandemic. 3 weeks later, you spend the same amount of money on a player. Arsenal said they've walked away because of a sell-on clause. That now means every club can beat Arsenal in every transfer negotiation ever. Just offer a 10% sell-on clause. Arsenal can't, but they won't walk away. It don't make sense. Oh, come on, let's just be logical here. Oh, anyway, sorry, I'm ranting now, and it's annoying me. I just don't like seeing fans have the wall put like Spurs fans. Any Spurs fan who believed that Spurs walked away first, you're deluding yourself. And it's the pattern of the news. Deal looks like it's going to be done. And then Antonio Conte started challenging things, which he does stereotypically in negotiations. And then Spurs says, we've walked away. No, Antonio Conte said he isn't signing unless he gets X, Y, and Z. You then said we're not going to offer it, so the deal broke down. But Antonio Conte was the first one to throw in the curveball. Do you know what I mean? If Buendia would have said, I'm not joining Villa, I want to join Arsenal, 110%, Arsenal would have carried on negotiating and gone, well, your player wants to leave. You have to sell him because he's pushing for a transfer. He's going to reject everybody else but us, do the deal. The same as Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey waited all summer for Arsenal. That's why it gave Arsenal the power in the situation because he didn't want to go anywhere else. Pepe didn't want to go anywhere. Liverpool were after him, but he didn't want to join Liverpool. He wanted to join Arsenal. That's still a rejection. If I make an inquiry, if I ring up, if me and David are both trying to talk to the same girl, and I speak to her mate, and she's like, she's got no interest in you. And then I'm like, yeah, I walked away because I didn't want to go to the restaurant David was taking. Rejected. It's semantics. Come on, people, wake up and smell the coffee. Wake up and smell the coffee, people. It's crazy for me. It's crazy. Anyway, I digress massively in relation to this. And do you know what will happen? It's going to happen in reverse at some point this summer, and you're going to see Gooners say, we got a player and he rejected your club for us. It's just going to happen. Ow! You can't say that. It's just, but I love it at the same time. I love, because I almost see this thing every single, and all fan bases do it. This isn't a specifically Arsenal thing. It's right. We're in a hole. How do we spin this to save face? And all our fan bases do it every single time, like 110%, 110%. It's that one. Bro, thanks for coming on, mate, and having you say. Really appreciate it. Great chat. Top man. Thank you, David. Quickly, we're going to speak to KJ before we go this morning. I've got a call in 10 minutes. KJ, welcome back. Oh, KJ disappeared. I was about to put him on. He disappeared. I don't know where he went. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, thank you very, very much. A lot of people saying that Thomas Partey went to Chelsea, not according to his father. They said, I think his father said they had offers from other clubs, but they didn't want anybody else but Arsenal. And that's fair. That is him rejecting other clubs for you, 110%. But Chelsea could spin it. We walked away. It's semantics. At the end of the day, if Buendia wanted to join Arsenal above and beyond Villa, that would have given Arsenal the negotiating power to get a better deal. That's how these things work. Now, if Buendia comes out and says, that I desperately wanted Arsenal, but they walked away, so I went to Villa, then I will outright apologize and say I'm wrong. I just don't think I am at this moment in time. Especially when I start hearing these new layers to the stories. Oh, actually, Odegaard's the number one target. Then why did you bid for Buendia first? Because imagine that. You bid for Buendia first, you get the player, and then it's like, oh, yeah, but Odegaard's available. Oh, yeah, but we bought our second choice before we even inquired about our first choice. And a lot of people saying that Odegaard's always been number one. But Fabrizio only the other day said that you tried to sign Buendia before you went for Odegaard last January. So why on 2 occasions have you gone for Buendia before Odegaard if Odegaard's your number one? It doesn't make sense to me. All I'm saying to Arsenal fans is wake up, because when you believe these things, you help the Cronkies. When Man United fans believe these things, you help the Glazers. It's cool for like clubs that like their owners. Spurs fans the other day, like, oh yeah, we walked away from Conte. Why are you defending Levy? Levy got his due diligence wrong. Levy messed up the negotiations. 110%. We're not talking specifically about Arsenal, Herb. We're talking about football and the PR stuff that's pulled over our eyes all the time. Terry, imagine Haaland, Havertz, Mount in midfield, Kante in the DM. This is why Tuchel has spoken before. He said we will create a team that no one wants to play against. Yeah, when you look at that, that's scary, bruv. Yeah, that is scary when you look at that overall, my guy. Great comment. Great comment indeed. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, a massive thank you to each and every one of you. Really respect what you're coming out here and saying and doing. And look, football's all about opinions. Everyone's going to have a different view. Everyone's going to think about things in a different way. And they really are. But listen, we're back later on today with more content for you. Until then, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And